My name is Juliet. I'm a very beautiful woman in her mid 20s. Everything was going well for me. I am well educated and fortunate to find love. I got married to the love of my life, Jackson. Not long after wedding, I became pregnant and soon we welcomed a baby boy. However, shortly after I had our baby, my marriage hit the rocks and became toxic. Jackson began to abuse me both physically and emotionally. I could hardly recognize the monster he had become. At first, I considered staying in the marriage for the sake of our 8-month-old child. But things only got worse. I realized that remaining in such a toxic environment was like digging my own grave and waiting to be buried in it. I could no longer bear the pain and trauma, so I took my son and left Jackson. I'm happy I made that decision. Taking care of my son wasn't too difficult at first. I had a good job that paid well. But just a few weeks after I left my husband, I arrived at the office to find my desk cleared. The only thing left was a sealed envelope. I had been fired without explanation. When I approached HR for answers, the officer stood, looked at me in the face and said, "You think you can just up and leave the man who made you who you are?" I understood exactly. Jackson's influence had gotten me that job. Still, I moved on and didn't dwell on that loss. My son and I survived on my savings while I moved from one company to another seeking employment. I could no longer afford to pay the nanny I had hired. So she left. I would carry my baby on my back as I went job hunting. Going back to my family wasn't an option. They had warned me about Jackson, but I was too blinded by love to listen. Life became incredibly hard. I needed help, so I reached out to my sister, Tessie, and told her everything. She was disappointed, but didn't stay mad for long. She credited my account and hasn't stopped helping since. But this time, no credit alert came, and I didn't want to keep bothering her. Yet, my baby needed food, so I took him and went out once more in search for work. On the way, I stopped to buy water from a roadside vendor. I paid, and the man gave me my change. I was about to toss it into my purse, but on a second thought, I checked it. It was double what I should have received. I turned and looked at the vendor, but he wasn't even facing me. My mind raced. How could he make such a mistake? This might be all his profit for the day. I needed the money, but not for me, for my baby. I turned to walk away. I took a step, then stopped. My conscience wouldn't let me. I walked back to him and said, "Sir, this is your money. The balance you gave me is more than you should have." He looked at me for a second, stretched out his hand, checked the money and gave me the correct change. He thanked me profusely and I left. I used the money to buy food for my son. That evening, while watching him sleep peacefully, I couldn't stop thinking about our future. I was deep in thought when I had a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, but I had nothing to fear. Hunger or death, it didn't matter anymore. I opened the door and there stood a handsome, well-dressed man. I was speechless for a second, then said, "Sir, you've got the wrong apartment." He smiled and said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" "No, I don't think we've met." "I'm the man who gave you the overbalance, the one selling water." "You?" I was shocked. "You look so different." "May I come in?" I let him in. We talked for a while, and then he handed me a large sum of money and left. It was an answered prayer. The next day, I went back to the spot where he sold water just to show my appreciation, but he was gone. A few days later, he appeared at my home again and made me an offer. "I have a job for you if you're willing." What happened that day was a test. You passed it. I've also done a background check. Your profile and CV are outstanding. You're exactly who I've been looking for. Without hesitation, I said yes. "Sir, I'll take the job, but I need an advance so I can hire a nanny." "You will get an advance. Domestic staff allowance is included in your package, but you may not even need a nanny. You'll be working from home. It's an undercover audit job. I'll bring everything you need. I began working on his company's financial record for the past year. Before long, I discovered shady transactions. The numbers didn't add up. I informed my boss. He wasn't surprised at my discoveries, but had his suspicions how previous auditors never noticed it. He said, "Where do the inconsistencies begin?" "From the point the last signatory starts imputing records," I replied. "That must be the general manager, finance and account." My boss will visit each evening to check on my progress. When I finished, I submitted my report. He paid me handsomely, enough to take care of my son and I for a whole year. But that wasn't the end. He kept visiting. We grew fond of each other. My little child, now a year and some months, adored him. One day he said to me, "I need your help. I want you to testify against my manager in court. No one understands the audit better than you. You are the only one who can explain it to the judge." He held my hand. I could feel our hearts racing. "I'll do anything for you," I said. "You saved me and my son. Now, let me help you save your company." He didn't let go of my hand. He moved closer, but my baby's cry interrupted the moment. "Thank you," he said. "I will inform my solicitor." Around the same time, my husband filed for divorce. I received a mail inviting me to court. After the hearing, the judgment was in my favor. I was granted full custody of my child, and Jackson was ordered to contribute to his upbringing. The hearing between my boss and his manager finally came. I arrived at court. As the solicitor called me up as a witness, I looked at the accused standing in the dock. I froze. It was Jackson, my ex-husband. He recognized me too. All the while we were married, he never mentioned anything about his job or his boss. I had no idea that the man I'd grown so close to, my new boss, was his employer. Jackson was found guilty and sentenced to prison. His accounts and properties were seized to recover the stolen funds. As I was leaving the courtroom, my boss intercepted me. "Thank you, Juliet. This means a lot. Will you have dinner with me at my house?" Just my way of saying thank you. I smiled. "Is that a yes?" I nodded. "Good. I'll send my driver to pick you and your baby." By 7 p.m., I was dressed in my best dinner gown, excited. The car arrived. His house was luxury personified. As we enjoyed a delicious meal, he held my hand and said, "Juliet, I know what I want when I see it. Please, marry me. I've loved you from the day you bought water from me. I also want you to fill the position of the general manager, finance and account." I sat silent, trying to process everything. He added, "And your son, I love him. I already see him as my child." Looking into his eyes, I said, "Yes." "Yes? Yes to what?" "Yes to every question you asked." He pulled me into a tight hug and kissed me. My baby was already fast asleep, and that is how my life took a new turn. Thank you for listening. If you find the story interesting, please like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories.